is, it will have an option for you to help. So for that, what I am doing is, I cleared everything. You have to type question mark. Okay, you have to type question mark with the function name. Here I am speaking about sample. So I am typing the sample. If you do that, if you see my screen, here one new window, in that help option was there, right? In the help, the random sample function, it came. So if you see this sample function, it will give the description, it will give the usage, it will give the number of arguments, what about the details, values, and which papers, which journal they have referred to create this function, and they will give a example also. You can directly copy paste this example if you have any doubt, and you can learn from this example. Okay, so similarly you can do for almost all the functions. So if it is a perfectly documented file, you will get almost all the information. Sometimes some information miss for some other packages defined by the others. But currently the CRAN have very strict rule, and when we are uploading the file, these are all the mandatory documents they will check. So your package has to be interoperable, and your package document should be fine. So based on this document, this will help the R user to know about your function. In the developer perspective, I am speaking. If you are developing one package and you want to upload it into the CRAN, you in addition to your coding part, you have to give consideration on major part like preparing the documentation and checking the interoperability and everything. So this function have this question mark with the function name. You can check for any other function. So I have given sample. We want to check for max function. So maxima and minima, max and min, they have given a single documentation, and they have given this document. Okay, so this will be very useful when you are a newbie to this R and R Studio, and you don't know about the function and you want to see the syntax of that, then you can easily check through this question mark option. Okay, so next we will see about the arguments in the function. I will take the same code and I will execute with the, yes, I will take the same code. Okay, here I am explicitly mentioning all the argument name, x equal to die, size equal to 2, replace equal to true. Okay, if I remove all the argument name, now also it will give me the same result. Okay, so what I am telling here is argument name is an optional thing, but it is better to give, because whenever you are reading again, you may know so what you have done, because when you are writing a code and you are seeing your code after 10 or 15 days, you may forget that what you have given the input. So because this function have 3 arguments, you think that your function have 7-8 arguments, you cannot remember all the argument, right? So you have to properly give the argument name, then only it will be useful for yourself. But for R it is not necessary, it is a optional thing only. But another problem is there in this argument name. What is that actually? I'm using the same code. Sorry. Yes, I'm using the same code. Here I am removing all the, in this 2 part I have removed the argument name. I have changed the order of argument. Okay, so x equal to die, comma true, comma 2. If you do, it will give you an error. Okay, so error in sample invalid size argument. So here the argument order is, if you think, the length of x, size, replace, probability. These are the 4 arguments for sample function. Here what you are giving, instead of for size argument, you are giving true. So that's why it is showing error, invalid size argument. Now I will show another option. Here what I have done is, I have changed the order of the argument. Instead of giving first argument as a data, I am giving size equal to true, replace equal to true, and x equal to die. You see, now it is working. So that is the importance of argument name. Even R will work based on argument name first. First priority is argument name, and next one is the order. Okay, if you are giving the argument name, it will directly map the value accordingly. But if you are not providing the argument name, you have to know the order of the argument. Okay, so you please be more careful in this. I hope everyone understood what I am trying to say. So if in the function argument, even if there is a multiple argument, if you are changing the order but providing the name, it will work. But if you are not providing name and you are changing the order, it won't work. Okay, so that is the important thing. You have to note it down from the function arguments.
See, the materials are
Then
all having the uniform.
Another
anything
point
developed
is,
which goes against the
in this
values of
function, with this same
it means
sample,
the become
if you see here, sample have 4 different arguments. Sample of x, size, replace equal to false, and probability equal to null. So this 4 different argument was there. While calling the first time, we have given only 2 inputs, that is x comma size only we have given there. But replace and probability, if you see here, it was already defined with the value here. Replace equal to false and probability equal to null. So this we will see now how we are going to provide a default value for the function argument.
So in want to solve next level. So that is
yes, up to now I have not gone through the user defined function. So first we will simulate the part of die. Again I will come to this die, then we will see the argument part. Okay. Code we have defined for the sample, and at last what user has to get is the sum, right? So I am using sum function here, and I am giving this as a argument. Okay, now my total value is, sorry, so what I am taking is, I am giving size 2, but I am adding the value. For example, here I am getting 8, it may be 4 or 6 2 or 5 3, it may be. Okay, so at last I want the total number. For that I am writing code. A dice is, I will remove all this part, copy this code. This code was already there, but I am explaining you part by part. Okay, it's already there in your text file. So this is the thing we want to do every time when we are rolling. But copying this and executing every time, it will take our code will look like a clumsy. So to avoid that, what we are going to do, we are going to create a function. So how we will create a function, we'll see. So this we have already saw. Yes, writing your own R function. The sample is a built-in function. R is popular for its built-in function. There are n number of multiple built-in functions available where if I want to teach each and every function, that itself will take 2 or 3 days. That many functions are there. So here, even though that many functions are there, user have specific requirement, and based on the specific requirement, they are creating their own function. So in the function have three basic parts: the function name, the function body, and the input arguments. So to make your own function, you need to replicate these parts and store them in a R object. This is also considered as an object where instead of value, the corresponding code will get replaced. So the syntax is my function is the name of the function, and this is the input arguments we will pass here, and the assignment operator and the function keyword. This is a keyword, and the body will be present inside the place. Okay. Sorry, here one mistake is there. My function, this parenthesis won't come. Here only that parenthesis, here only we will pass the input argument, like in this screenshot. Okay, here some mistake is there. My function, here the parenthesis won't come. Here only we will pass the input. Okay, so here now we will see functions with arguments and default values. First we will see how we will define our own function, and I am going to the script. So to roll a pair of die, I have this function. I am copying this. I am pasting here. Here roll is my function name. I will keep enter. So here roll is my function name. Function is the keyword. This role you can give any name. Here based on the action, I have given it as role. And after these are all the function body. So in this function body, I have create a variable object die 1 to 6. So I want to simulate a pair of dice. So for that I have given die as input, size as 2, and replace equal to true. So up to now we have seen this. I have commented this code. I will come to this again. Now I am printing this 10 value. So at last I am getting 2 values in dice, and I am taking the sum and I am printing here. If I want to see the sum as well as I want to see what is coming in the each die, I have to enable this line. So print of dice. I am printing the dice, then only I am making it as sum. So if I am doing that, for every time if you call roll, sorry, spelling mistake. Every time if I call roll, first line I will get what is the two different die value I am getting, and second line is the sum. Okay, so everyone, if you everyone, can you able to simulate up to this one? Whether anyone is having any issue with the code? If possible, keep it in the chat box. I hope there won't be any issue up to now. So we have created our own function. Open chat box once and I will check. Up to now I didn't got anything. Okay. So everyone can able to simulate the die, right? Okay. Then we will move on to the next part. Yes, we will move on to the next part. that is functions with arguments and the default values. Now I am going to change, instead of 1 to 6 die, I am going to change for 1 to 4. So my die may have a different input. For example, the user A have 1 to 6 die and user B have 1 to 4 die. He have only that kind of die. Okay. If you think that, how you will define? For that, we are providing the input arguments with the default values. First, we will see the arguments, then we will see the default values. Okay. Here, in the first part, here I am giving explicitly I am giving a wrong code for getting error. Okay. Don't think like that. You also will get error. So I will explain that error part. So what I have added in from the previous slide is like I have added bones as a input parameter. So bones is nothing but it will change based on your input. Whether if you want 1 to 6 or 1 to 4, that you have to give. Okay. By if you call the function here roll2, what I am giving bones equal to 1 is to 4. So 1 is to 4 only I am sending here. And based on this, it will select, it will do the operation and it is printing me the result. Obviously, if you are getting 2, it is 1 and 1. Okay. So 1 to 4, I am getting 1 and 1. I got 2. And if I am running without any argument, okay, without any argument, it is telling me that error in sample, argument bone is missing with no default. It is explicitly telling you that there are no default value assigned for this, and because of that it is showing us error. So what I am going to change is, I am giving the same function with the default value. So for that you come here, and if you see, I have changed the default value as 1 by 1 is to 6 as a default value. If anyone want to change, so roll2 of 1 is to 4, if they want to change, it will run. If they want, if they are not giving anything, then also it will run. Okay, so I think I have to enable this print, then only we will get we won't get confusion. Here 5 I am getting. 1 second, I will remove all the part. I will enable this print dice. Okay, so now roll2 of, I am changing to 1 is to 3. Okay, so I am getting 2 2, so the total sum is 4. Now I am providing without any arguments. Roll2. So it is taking 1 to 6 values, that is 4 and 5. The total is 9 I am getting. So this is how we have to define our own function with arguments and with default values. Okay. So next we will see some of the popular built-in functions. Before that, this is the structure of the function, and if you see, this is the code, that is roll2 function of bones equal to 1 to 6. Here roll2 is the function name, and this 1 to 6 is the default value. This entire code is the function body, and the third part is this one is the argument. This bone equal to 1.6 itself is a argument. And if you think, yes, this is one more point I forgot to tell about the function. If you are coming from C or C++, you have used a return statement to provide the output, right? So the return statement will give you the output. But if you are not providing return statement, then it will show you a error in C. but here there is no problem in R. There is no need to provide any specific return statement. The last line of the code will be considered as a return result of the function. Okay, so we will see with the code. Here I am removing this. Okay. Instead of print, I am just providing dice. Without function, first I will explain. Then only with function you will understand. Escape. I will go with the code. Why I have used print, then only you will know. So this is the code that I have used inside the function, right? Sorry. Object bounds now. Sorry. Remove all this. Type. If you see here, you don't think about this print statement that is commented. If I am using just dice also, it is showing output, right? So it is showing me the output. You think that. Then I am going with the function now. With this screen itself I will run. So here also I am using the same line. After dice, I am with the dice here it is printing value. If I give here sum of dice I am printing, here I am printing dice. Okay. If I call roll 2, it won't give me the dice option. It won't print. It will print only the sum. Okay. So it will take only the last line and it will print. That's why I have explicitly used the print statement in the function to show me the result. So that's why I have changed this function and I have enabled this print option. Then if I give, now I will get two results. Like I am getting dice as well as 11. Okay. So similarly, if you exchange the result, for example, here, now I am printing the dice I am removing. After sum of dice, I am just printing dice. Sorry. Yes, we can't. Yes. Sum of dice. And here I am giving you the dice. Okay, I am modifying it. If I am printing, if I am calling the function now, if you see, I am not getting the sum part. Okay, I am just getting the dice. If I want to know the sum, I have to explicitly print state. I have to use the print statement here. So this is the uh, advantage of not taking the additional inputs like a return statement. Okay, no need to have a return statement and all. The last line will be considered as a return value. If you want to explicitly print anything, you have to use the print function for printing the particular value. Then only it will force the compiler to print, or else it won't do the part. Okay, so that is the major difference you need to know. And I will go to slide again. Yes. So this structure is, I hope everyone understood the structure. Next one, some of the popular built-in function that we will see from this script. Again, I am going to script. I am copying the 20 part. Okay. So this is most commonly used function I have listed here. There are n number of functions are there. These are the most commonly used function. For example, I am initializing a with a negative -4. So if I am doing absolute function of a, it will change my negative into positive. Okay. So if I am writing a equal to 4 and if I am writing square root of a, it will give the sqrt is for square root, and sealing is to seal the value, the decimal point to the highest value. Okay, so 4.5, which is the nearest highest point is 5. Okay, it will seal the corresponding value. Floor, which will give the nearest to lowest value, 4.5 to 4. Here I am using the range value 1:5 and I am identifying the mean value of A. Mean value of A, standard deviation of A, median value of A, then range of A, then it is a range in the sense from which value it starts and which value it ends. Okay. And sum value of A, sum of A is nothing but 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. Okay, that is 15. And minimum value is 1, maximum value is 5. So these by act as a input to the another function. So for 1 second, maybe which function I can. For example, the same die I will take 1 to 6. So now I want to calculate instead of mean will actually do. Okay. Okay, so if you see here, what I am doing is like, it is not showing error. What I am doing here is die equal to 1 to 6 range. First thing, the mean is already a built-in function. Sum is already a built-in function. What I am passing here is, for sum, this die is the input. First, how this function will work, that I will tell. So first it will replace the die value with this 1 to 6. Then it will do the sum function. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, that is 21. And this 21 will be given to the mean value. As it is a single value, the mean value will be like this. So mean value is the same value 21. Okay, so here this code why I am telling you is, this function take either direct raw data. Okay, so either it will take direct raw data or it will take the R objects. So here I am using R object, that is die R objects. So another function itself as a input. So 3 different input we can give for a function. One is raw data, that is direct we can do raw data. We give R objects to this, or else I can give direct function as a input. So that is the thing I want to tell here. And okay, next we will go to slides. Okay, now we are coming to the major part, little bit of major part, that is advanced part. So we are going to data set. So importing and loading your data set. To load the data using RStudio. Then we will see what are the other method available. So in the perspective of data science and data analytics, normally if you see Kaggle, if you people don't know most about data analytics, you refer Kaggle or UCA machine learning repository for dataset. There are n numbers of datasets already available for you to work on. So you can download the dataset and you can work it on for any purpose. Like Kaggle will have some competition. If you are a teacher, you may can give this information to your students, or you can itself, if you are interested, you can try. Any function for calculating mode? Yes, sir. Obviously, mode, everything will be there. So exact name, I think I have to check it off. We will check with the help function itself. If there is a function called mode, mostly they won't change. So this is different mode, storage mode of an object. So mathematics, so mode is different. This mode is different. I will check and I will let you know, sir, because as there are n number of functions, we can't able to remember almost all the things. So I will check with that and I will let you know. So coming to the slide, yes. So these two websites are very helpful if you want to work it on data sets. So Kaggle is one website and UCA machine learning repository. So what actually the data set is, we can't do everything manually, right? So by hand we can't create data sets. So instead of typing the large data set, we can directly download from any other source in order to avoid the typing errors. Okay, so whenever there is a large data, it's always to better the as a computer file, and you can provide the file to the R for reading the data and convert it into the corresponding R object. Here in the morning session, I have shared deck.csv, right? So I think if you want, I can share now also. If anyone can't able to get, I will share in this space also. 1 second. Fine. I think I don't have the option to share now. Maybe some restriction for me in this meeting. I don't know. Morning the option was enabled. Now I can't able to do. I don't know why. Share. I think there is a issue. Whether anyone in the comment box if anyone got now, you please tell me. Yes, I think we have the files, but can't share it. Yes, I also can't able to share. Also can't able to share. Transfer option was disabled. Okay, so let's see how it will work. So this deck.csv is a comma separated file, that is CSV. So CSV is nothing but a plain text file where each data will be separated by the delimiter, that is comma. Here the delimiter is comma most probably. Some files will have a tab space, some files will have a what is that pipeline symbol. So there is various delimiter option available. And to load a plain text into R, what we have to do is in R Studio we have an option to import directly. So I will show you the option in my screen itself. So before that I will clear all this. Here environment also I will clear. Here there is an option called import dataset. I hope everyone can see, right? Import dataset above the global environment. So if you click that, it will ask for from text, from reader, from Excel, from SPSS, from SAS, from Stata, from everything. We are choosing the from text. Okay. So my CSV file is in this workshop, this data sets and scripts here deck. So if I open, I think if everyone opens, you will get a screen like this. Okay. So if anyone can't able to do up to now this one, you please message in the chat box. If anyone can't able to do any error, repeat, sir. So okay, I will repeat again. Okay. So I will cancel this. Okay. So here there is an option called import dataset above the global environment. Okay. This global environment, here there is an option import dataset. If I click that, from text option will be there. Okay, in that base reader will be there. We are clicking the base. Okay, if I click that, it will ask for which document. So I am going to this workshop, this datasets and scripts. Here deck.csv. This is my comma separated file. So for that, I am opening. Now you will get this screen. By default, name will be allotted and encoding is automatic. If you want to change encoding, you can change. Click. There are multiple encoding techniques are there, UTF and multiple based on, most probably it will automatically do all the process. Okay. If there is a heading, it will show yes. In this data set, this phase, suit, value, these are all headings. Okay. This phase, suit and value, these are all headings. And yes, I am giving. Row names automatic. Here separator is comma. This is the thing I told, delimiter. So for each value is taken out, how it will read is based on comma, it will separate each value. And the decimal point is period here, and the quote is double quote. Either if you want to use single quote or double quote, that you can, that based on, it will most probably everything will be automatically taken care of. If there is a comment in your data set, then it will come here, but here it is none. And NA dot strings that we will study now, NA dot strings, it is not available, NA. And here one more option, strings as a factors. Okay, this only morning we saw factors, right? If you see this here, this is nothing but this is a pack of 52 cards. Up to now we have seen dice, right? So now we are moving to cards. So each, if you know the card structure, we have 4 suits, that is spades, clubs, and heart, and clever. So similarly, each have 13 numbers, and total of 52 we will have, right? Here, if you think there are 13 spades, 13 clubs are available, and if you here also name also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are all will repeat. This will repeat 4 times. This will repeat. Everything will be repeat 4 times, right? If you give string as a factor, instead of taking this value, it will convert into a level based. All this will be converted into a factor variable and store as a integer part. Instead of spades, it will assign 1. Instead of club, it will assign 2. Similar to that, it will take care of. So I am not giving, I am not enabling, don't enable this option. We are not going to enable now. And for our data set, we don't actually need it. And if based on your data set, either you can enable or disable this part. Your file will look like this. And in your R, it will look like this. Okay, so the data frame and I have told you the header, right? Heading part. So this is heading part and this is our actual value. So data frame is the most commonly used method. It will look like a matrix, but each column will have a different data types. And to click import. If you click import, up to now you have used only this console, right? We have not used other than console. Now the console screen will come down and you have a separate pane opened here. That is deck. Here the deck.csv file, the data frame is viewed. If you see, we have used the import statement, right? The code for the corresponding import statement has been automatically taken by the system and these 2 commands automatically executed. We have used the graphical user interface option, and if you import this data set, after successful data, we have automatically executed these 2 commands and it is showing the result. This view.deck is only showing this result, data frame. I am viewing this data frame. Okay. So I hope everyone imported their data successfully. If not, please type it in the chat box. If you have any error or any other thing. Yes, got. Okay. Fine. Then we will move on to the next part. So this screenshot I have given for safety purpose. So if you don't have a plain text file and if you are downloading the data set directly from internet, there is an option from web URL under import dataset where we can download directly. And yes, sir, can I load image dataset? So this image data, if you speak about image data, what is actually an image? If you consider it in a dataset format, image is also nothing but a matrix where all the information will be of a pixel information. Most people don't know what I am speaking is. I got a comment like, sir, can I load a image dataset? For that I am answering. Okay. So yes, matrix of values in that pixel values. So normally, if you consider a data set, I hope any of you have heard in machine learning, I don't know what happened in the last session, whether anyone taken or not, I don't know. The most commonly used image data set is a MNIST handwritten digit recognition data set, MNIST data. So what it will have is it is a subset of NIST data, where all the handwritten images are taken into pictures. That is, it is taken as a picture, and these pictures are given into the machine learning model for training. Okay, so if you take this MNIST data set, how the data set will look like, it is actually an image. But when computer reads, how it will read is, it will read in the form of matrix. For example, if the data set contains 1000 images, where each image is of size 8 cross 8, so each image have size, right, of size, width into height. So each image is of size, width into height. If you read the image, what it will happen is, it will create 1000 rows. So it will create 1000 rows, and 1000 images are there, 1000 rows. And how many columns will be there, right? 8 into 8, 64 columns will be there. So each image will be considered as a single row, and all 64 pixel information are arranged in a row manner. And at last, finally, the class variable, the corresponding class variable, if the return number is 1, the last variable will be 1. Okay, so similar to that only, image data we will process. So the major thing is, if you can able to convert your image data into a CSV file format or text file format in a matrix form, you can directly include in the data frame format. Okay, so there is no problem in it. Okay, so yes, can you give a demo using image data set? And it can be loaded, but ML processing methods will be different depending on the purpose. Think whether it is a continuation or can be loaded, but ML processing methods will be different depending. I can't able to understand it, sir. Like, it can be loaded, but ML processing methods will be different depending on the purpose. Okay, can you give a demo using image data set? Surely I will do it tomorrow. Okay, so now I don't have enough time, so I have to complete it before 4, right? So I will first complete the basic part, and we will move on to the next part. No. So we will see the basic options after we can done using import data set, and I will go to the script part. I will close this again. I am coming to the console. I am clearing all this. Now I have only data deck is available. So which have 52 observations of 3 variables. Here I am actually, the data set is nothing but a card, 52 cards of data. So this code I have copied from the script that I have shared. If you run the script, the first part, I am checking the data type of the loaded data. So what type it is? It will show it is a list, because this data frame will consider under the list. Okay, the class of deck will give you that data frame, whereas the type, it is actually a list data. And this str is nothing but structure of the deck. Okay, so I just want to see the structure of my data set. Here it will show the basic information about our data set. 52 observations of 3 variables. So what are the three variables? The face, suit and value. What are the data types? Face is a character, suit is a character, where value is a int. And the this will actually the output result, the data. It will show some of the data. Okay. Now I want to check the dimension of my data set. Dimension of my data set, if I keep, it will give me row in column. Okay, the first part is row, that I have 52 observation and 3 variables, 3 columns. This head and tail are two important functions. We may see whether our data set have loaded properly. Instead of seeing the complete data set, if I want to see complete data set, I have to write deck. It will show the all the data set. Now 52, okay, within one scroll I am taking. If you take 10,000 data, if I am just doing this, I am writing this, printing this part, it will take too much time to print, and it is not, you cannot able to see all this result. What head will show is, it will show only the first 6 rows. So head will show only the first 6 rows of the data, whereas tail will show the last 6 of the data. So we have 52 cards. First 6 cards I am showing it here using head. The last 6 I am showing it using tail. Okay. So these are the some of the basic information we can infer from the data set before applying any operation. Okay, so this is the part over, and next we will see how we can select some values from the data. I am clearing this out. I will go to slides. So up to now we have load our data. We have seen the structure of the data and what are the important information we have inferred from the data. Next thing is, as a part of data manipulation, we want to select our values. The most commonly used index in the data analysis in related to this R programming is, there are 4 different ways we can select the values from the data. One is positive integer, negative integer, blank space and names. Unlike C, the indexing here starts at 1, okay, not 0. The first one is the first data. In normally in C, what we will do, we will take, normally index will start at 0, right? But here indexing begins at 1. So positive index and negative index we will see. So in negative index is nothing but actually R will return every element except the elements given in the negative index. First we will see the positive and negative index. One second. Yes. I am copying the up to negative index I have copied, right? Okay. So this minus sign will be there. Up to that I am copying. So first just I am printing first 6 values using head. Then normally I am just taking the ij indexing concept. Normally we will use that only, right? Ij indexing concept is nothing but, if you have I rows and j columns, if I use ij indexing, ith row and jth column will be, the value will be selected and it will print. Here deck, after that I have to use this hard bracket and I am giving 1, 1. So first row and first column, ith row and jth column, that is here 1 comma 1, first row and first column. If you see from this data set, don't think face suit value is as a data. It will consider that as a header. Okay, so one more information you have to know is this face suit value will be considered as a header. It won't consider as a data. This is numbering given by the R itself for us to understand the serial number of our data. Okay, so this and this will not be considered as a data part. That's why dec of 1 comma 1 it is showing this king part. Okay, this king part was shown as dec of 1 comma 1. Here we can give, if I want to provide all the data about that first row, I have to use 1 comma 1 is to 3. I have 3 columns, right? 1 is to 3, I can give a range also. This is an option for you to apply range in the indexing too. Dec of 1 comma 1 is to 3, it will give you the first row of the data with all the 3 columns. Now I am telling you about the positive indexing. So here I am just taking the new data where I am copying. So what from this instruction what I am telling you is, if I am giving dec of 1 comma 1.1 in the range of 3, it won't actually create a new data frame. It will just show the output. That's all. It won't actually take this as a result, or we are not storing anywhere. If you want to store this subset of the particular data frame, you have to initialize a variable, that is initialize a new object, and you have to use the assignment operator to copy this range into this value. So that's why I am using this new data where I am copying the first row and I am printing it. So now this is a new object I have created. If you see here in this environment, I have dec part of 52 observation of 3 variables and new of 1 observation of 3 variable. This new is also a data frame. Okay, so if you see the class of new, this also is a data frame. If you see class of new, you see here, it is also a data frame. Whatever the subset you are taking from a data frame, you are copying it and you are storing, that will also result in a same data frame. Now we will move on to the negative indexing. Negative indexing, I want to show only this first row and first column. Not first column, first row with all this column. What I am giving is the column I am not going to change 1 is to 3. But the row, if you think here, there are 52 observation, right? I am just removing the one part and I am negating with the minus 2 to 52. Okay, so minus 2 to 52, I am denoting it here and I am getting this as a output. Okay, 1 second. Yes, okay. So this negation part, you have to be careful. If you are doing wrong, you will get error. So when the negation will help you is, if you want to omit multiple data and if you want to select only particular data, you can use negation with range, and this will help you in eliminating the data, okay, from the dec value, and you can store. It is actually won't delete. If you use negative value, it won't actually delete the data. It will just show you the result. Okay, that's all from positive and negative indexing. Next we will go for the blank and the slide. Yes, blank space and name based indexing. So as you have based on the title itself, we can identify, instead of giving anything, we are just using blank space, which will indicates that or to extract every value in the dimension. If there is a blank space, R will consider all the data. Okay. If there is a name with our data set, we have name, right? Face, suit and value. Based on that also, we can index our data and we can show. So here I have given a example. I am clearing all. So in the first part, if you see deck of, I am giving the row part as one, first row. Column I have not filled anything. It is directly implementing that all the three columns. How many columns are available? All the three columns will be printed here. And in this next one, indexing by name, here I am taking first row. I am here using C function to combine this face, suit, value. This everything here I just want to print all the columns. If I am removing this column, if you take this, I just want to see only the face. I am removing this too. There is no combination, no need of C function. It will just only the first value, that is king. Only we are showing the king. Here also I can give you the range of. So first 13 I want to see. So king, queen, jack, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All related to this face. First 13 rows of face column I am printing here. That's how we can manipulate our data. Okay, so indexing you have to be very clear. Okay, so 4 different types of indexing we have saw: positive, negative, blank, and the final one is name based indexing. If you don't have name, then that's all, no need. You can you cannot use this indexing. Other 3 you can use. Then we will see the another important point to extract the value using the dollar. We have a data frame and we have 3 columns, right? Face, suit, and value. With the dollar symbol also you can extract the column. Just we have to add data frame name, then we have to add dollar symbol, then we have to add the column name. We will see the example. Control L. Okay, first we will see with the data from, then we will come to the list part. Okay. So first I have a deck, that is a data set, our data set. If you see dollar, so deck I have typed, right? If I type dollar, automatically all the 3 column names will come here. You can see my screen, right? Face, suit, and value, all the 3 will list. So instead of value, I am just printing suit. Okay. So this dollar value, with that indexing, you can directly pass this as a argument to the other built-in functions. So when I am teaching about built-in function, I have told you, right? Instead of raw values, you can pass objects also. Here it will come under the object category, where mean function, I am directly taking one particular column from the data set and I am passing as an input to the function mean. Okay. That's all. And then we will see the list part. So the same dollar symbol we can use for list also. Why we are speaking more about columns, right? So most probably we are speaking about columns. So I think I don't have enough time if I speak about my research area. Mostly probably we will discuss tomorrow why we will mostly concentrate on columns that I will tell tomorrow. Now we will complete the code part. So list. So the list I have created here is a numbers first of 1 comma 2, and the next one is a logical true, and the next one is a string which is having a b c. Okay, so I am printing the list to show you what are the things I have given here. So from you see, as I have told you in the morning, this is a user specified name. You can change anything. So based on the data type, I have given you here number, logical and strings. Okay. So when I am doing the list of one indexing, the list of one, it will show me this complete part. Okay. This is the first way normally we have studied. List of one, it will give you this part. And there is another way to access the same indexing is LST dollar numbers. If you write also, it will automatically come similar to how you got in the previous data frame. Okay. So list of numbers. And similarly, I am passing this as an input to mean function. Another point here, one important difference you want to notice here is from the first function LST of 1, it is showing the same result. LST dollar numbers also you are getting the same result. But in mean function, if you are doing LST dollar number, it will give you answer. Whereas if you are giving LST dollar 1 as an input, it is showing a warning message with the not correct exact output that you are expecting. It is not giving the exact output. What is the major problem in the list is, so I have told you, right, list in the sense how list will work is, if you are taking a list as a input argument to this function, this also will be considered as a new list. It won't take the exact proper data inside the list. It will exactly give you a new list with the data inside. But what actually the function need, it will only actually need the data. So for that you have to use this double bracket. In morning we have saw the double bracket, right? Now you see the importance of double bracket here. So if you give the first single bracket of 1, you won't get the exact output you want. So you have to use this double bracket to correctly pinpoint the exact data in the list. Or else if the list of 1 is actually a list, but here list of double bracket of 1 is actually a content, raw data. Okay, that is the major difference between this part and this single bracket and double bracket. So dollar sign has completed and double bracket we have completed. So as I have mentioned, double bracket will do the same thing as dollar notation. Okay, when you use the single bracket, the result is a smaller list. And if you subset a list with a single bracket notation, R will return a smaller list. If you subset a list with a double bracket notation, R will return just the values. This is the point I have told using that code part. Okay. So the next part is yes. Okay, this only we have saw till now. Missing information. So most of our data set, if you download from Kaggle or UCA machine learning repository, you will get the missing information. Some of your data may have in either it may got corrupted or it may have some outlier data. Outlier data in the sense it's not related to your data, it will be there. So to handle the missing values, so how the R will handle the missing values is, it will have a special character called NA. Okay, so NA is nothing but not available. NA, which is a special symbol to represent this missing values. If you do directly with the missing values, your machine learning model will throw you a error. But if it is a NA value, there are multiple OR functions which have an option to handle the NA part. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to take our data set. If there is a missing value, we have to change to NA format, and we are giving this NA format data to the machine learning model. Machine learning model, we have to select the option to handle NA part. Then your machine learning model will discard the NA and it will consider the remaining part for execution. Where if you are not handling this NA part, it may give you the error or it may affect the performance of your machine learning model. Okay, so that is the major difference. You have to note it down for NA. So saves you from making errors based on missing data. So even if one of the value is not available, your entire result will be NA in R. Okay, so how we will handle NA? So there are multiple functions are available, that is na.remove_rm. So first thing is we can, when you are loading the data set itself, you can replace the data with NA for missing values. And when we are handling the function, when you are giving to the functions, we have to remove the values and you have to give the value. That we will see in the code and we will understand. And yes, so handling NA. Sorry, here all this. Okay, so to show you the importance of NA, first what I have created is a data object X. I have added 1 to 50 number plus NA. NA as a first element I have added. Along with it, I have added 1 to 50. So now my total data set is of 51 values, 1 NA and remaining 50 integer numbers. If I am giving this data to mean function, you are getting the output as NA. So what I have told you, if any one of your value is NA, then your entire output will become NA. So you have to handle NA using a function called NA.rm. So most of the mathematical functions and machine learning related functions will have this optional argument. Okay, so by default it will be false. What we have to do, we have to enforce and we have to tell the compiler to remove the rm. That is na.rm equal to true. This is the code we have to add. Then we will get the mean value. Okay. So now we have handled this NA part. Okay, the next problem will come here is, when we are reading our data, we need to check whether our data set is having some NA value. Okay, so for that we need some comparison, right? So for comparison operator, if you take comparative operator NA equal to NA. So this is how we have to check, right? If there is a NA in your data set, normally how you will check whether it is equal to NA. But the thing is, like, you won't get answer as a true. You will get answer as a NA only. That will also create a problem. So then how you will identify whether your data set is having a NA? For that there is a separate function called is.NA. We have to provide the input value and it will show the result in a logical output. It will show whether it is true or false. So actually we are asking question, right? Is.NA, whether our value is NA, either it has to true or false. So for that is the major thing. Here if you see NA equal to NA, this will show you the result of NA. But this is not we want. We want true, right? So for that we have a separate function is.NA of, if you pass NA as a direct, I told you, right, direct raw data or some other object. Here if you see, I have created a vector with the combination of 1, 2, 3 and NA, and I have passed this vector as an input to this is.NA function. For each value, it will be providing me the result, logical result. For 1, it is false because it is not NA. 2 is also false. 3 is also false. At last, for NA, if it is checking with NA, it will give me the true. Okay, so this is how we can check whether our data set have NA. So this is how we can handle using functions, and we can check the NA for in the data set. So handling NAs, and this example we have some. So the last part of our session is scripts and packages. So this is just a brief intro. So tomorrow will be the major session where we will see 3 popular data set. So one is a DPLYR, which is for manipulating the data set. Okay. The next one is ggplot2, which is equivalent to you can directly map with the matplotlib library. Okay, so similar to that, we can have a beautiful charts and visualization things using ggplot2. And at last, we will see if there is enough time after this two, we will see the machine learning model using some carrot packages. Okay, so this is how the day 2 is planned, and now we will give a brief introduction about scripts and packages. So up to now we have used our command line for the program, right? We have not yet went to the script part. So if you want to reproduce the record of your work, and if you want to, for example, if it is a command line, if you close the session and if you want to open the command again, it is not possible. So you need a file to store all this command, right? That is called script. So here we have a pane in this RStudio. When we create a new file, new R script, that will come. So that I will show in the screen itself. So that is majorly for storing, and we can do it later. If you want to do your code later, and if you want to reproduce your work, and if you want to share your work, this R script will help you. So in this also, how we can run is there are 2 options for execution. So if you see in this diagram, here in this diagram it is not clear. I will show you in this RStudio itself. Here there are 2 options where we can run the complete source, or we can run each individual line like a command prompt. Okay, so like how in console we have worked, right? Similar to that, we can execute inside the R script also. In addition to that, we can highlight some part and we can execute that. We can highlight and we can execute the particular set of code. Okay, so these are the options available in the script. You want to see the script, there is a file option here, right? There is a file option here. If you click that file, here new file will be there. If you click that new file, new R script. Okay, so R script is here. If you click that, your console will go down, your script file will come up here. So here you can write print hello world. If you type enter also, nothing will happen. It's like your code. So A equal to 1, B equal to 2, okay, C equal to A plus B. If I run this, what will happen? We will see. Here there are 2 options, right? That is source and run. We will see one by one. First I am running source, okay. So if I am running source, I got only hello world. Okay, I will see. With this I will run. Okay, I am just adding C part. and I will run now. Now also I am getting only hello world. Now this run I will tell, this entire part I am selecting. Now you see how differently it is executing. So if you start from here, it is printing hello world, then it will show all these command, how the console, how it will work. Similar to that it will take and it will show all this result. So instead of just if I am keeping C in normal source, if I am executing, it won't print the C value. But if I want to check the value, I have to select it and run. Even with a single line itself, I can select and execute. Okay. So whole line or just a part of the line. So anything I can highlight with the mouse and you can run the code. Okay, so if I am deleting all the object, it will show error. So actually C is a combination function, right? So COM, sorry. Error, object com not found. So we have cleared the environment. If I am run here, now it will show object A not found, object com not found. Now you get the result. Okay, so similar to that we can highlight and we can execute in this pane. So if you want to save and if you want to share, here the option is there, save document or Control S. This is a common shortcut. So you can select your file and you can save. Okay, so you can select your file and you can save. It will save in the extension of .r. So in C.C, in C++.cpp, java.java. So similar to that, R file will have, R script will have a extension of .r. Okay, so now we will see how we can import our data set using this script part. Okay, this I have not shared with you. I will clear everything, remove everything from here. Even I can close this thing, don't save. Okay, this file, open file. So workshop, data scripts. Here I have created a file called deck.r. Okay, so I hope everyone have downloaded their data set in their system, right? So here I have a function called read.csv to read the file. Now I am telling you an alternate way to import the data set into your R environment. So this only will actually execute when you do this operation. So this read.csv you have to pass the input argument, that is a location of the file name. Here this is my path to the file name. If you see, I have used, because of this Windows, I have used this double slash, or else I have to change this into this slash. Okay, then only it will work, or else you will get error. The most common error I will tell you. So if you take the path, whatever the path, if you have downloaded, it may be in your download folder. You have to give this exact path with the file extension deck.csv. You change the path and we will run this. Okay. So now I am just running this only. So I am just running this. My environment have a new data. Okay. So that I am storing it into the variable called data. That deck.csv I am loading into data. And I am using head function to print the first 6 values. This is the output of the head function. And similar to that, I want to print print the most important information about the data set. First, I am checking whether my data frame is a data set is stored in the form of data frame. Okay, so type of we have seen already. This is a new function called is.data.frame of data. If the data set is in data frame class, it will show you the true. If you see, the default format of classing is data frame, so it will show you true. And the function ncall will give you the number of columns in the data, and nrow will give you the number of rows in the data. So this str of data I have already told you, that is structure of the data I am printing here. So now we will see the another concept, that is subsetting. So subsetting is nothing but getting a part from the data. So in your data set, you may not need all the data at once, right? So you have to subset your data, and you want to do some operation on the subset. So what I am doing here is, I have using this variable called, that is return value, which is assignment operator I have used, and I have used the inbuilt subset function, and the first argument is my data. Okay, so from the data only I am going to create the subset. How I am going to create the subset is when suit is equal to spade. So all the spades I am going to take as a subset of data, and I am going to print. So if you run this code, so if you see here, I am taking all the spades, that is 13 to 1, 1 to 13. I am taking all this spade, and I am storing it in return value. Now I just want to print only the king, queen, jack. Okay, so all the it is not about I am restricting with only spades. For all the data, I want to print king, queen, and jack. So how I can do is, I can take the value. If it is greater than 10, so we will call it as jack, queen, and king. Right? 11 is jack, 10 is jack, 12 is jack. So similarly, I am doing, and I am printing. So 1, 2, 3, 14, 15, 16, 27. You can write it in a CSV file, and you can send it to some other people. So for that, what you have to do is, you have to use a function write.csv of return value. So this value, return value, I am going to write. Where I am going to write the path I have to give. Okay. So I think I have advertised the return have to give this code. First I will delete this, then I will run. Yes. Now if I run this code, so here nothing will happen. I have to go to this particular, I have to go to file is created. So this output file is created. All this king, queen, jack, king, and this is the serial number. Okay. So all the into this output.csv file. Scripts, a basic example of scripts, and the last part in this session is packages. So many professors, programmers, statisticians use R to design tools for analyzing the data. Okay. But the thing is like if the functionality is not available, they will create their own package, they will upload it into the CRAN repository and every other can use it for free. Okay, these all are free, nowhere money will come inside, and this entire thing is a knowledge sharing. Okay, so only thing you have to use this tool is you have to download them, and for downloading where you have to go is you have to go to this cran.org.org where actually the host or distribution you have downloaded, right? From their website only you have to take the packets. So I think time is going to complete. This is the last slide. So for RStudio, if you want to install a package, there are two different ways. First one is using a command, that is install.packages. Within the bracket, you can give the package name, or else the another option I will show you. So here using this command prompt, I am closing this. So this command. So if I want to install a package, install.packages, if you type means it will automatically come. From this double quotes, I am just installing for tomorrow's DPLOR package. Okay. So sometimes it will give a warning, so don't worry about that. So because I have some tools which is not present and some version mismatch, so everything will come. So at last you have to check whether it is downloaded or not. That's all. And another way is here one option called packages will be there. If you click that, there is an option to install package. And if you click that again, it will ask repository. Most probably it will be CRAN. And if you give this package name DPL, it will automatically come related packages. So DPLOR, it is here. And install dependencies. This dependencies option I will tell you tomorrow. So if you click install, this will install to your R environment. Okay, this is the way to install packages where DPLOR is used for data manipulation, that we will see tomorrow morning. Okay, that's all from this presentation today. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Participants, any questions? Thank you, sir, for your clear presentation on fundamentals of R and RStudio with practicalities. Thank you so much, sir. So we'll end this session today. Tomorrow we'll resume. Thank you.
Thank you.